This episode of Co-op Live is brought to you by Squarespace, Gamefly, and GoDaddy.com.
You know, I gotta say, guys, our first live episode turned out a lot better than I thought it would. I was really, really happy with the results. And it seems like even the audience was down with what we did. I was really super pleased afterwards.
Actually, a lot of the feedback that I saw was that people really liked the show, but they were afraid they weren't going to see any more of this famous San Francisco landmarks because we're not going to be filming outside.
Really?
That's crazy.
No. Come on, like we do that. Get right out of town.
Why would they say that? That doesn't make any sense.
That's crazy, dude.
No, honestly, that's actually what the feedback was. I feel like it's a legitimate concern.
That is absurd. That is the most that's the craziest thing I've ever heard. Really?
Yeah.
Really?
What? You know, that is just plain dumb.
That is really, really dumb.
So dumb.
I mean, come on. Like, what?
Like we'd ever do that. Why would you do that?
What if life was more like a video game? We would play it all co-op.
Love the drill.
I completely agree with you. It was like my favorite new thing they added in Bioshock 2 was that drill. Absolutely.
That was totally what this game needed because a lot of the other combat feels samey. And we're going to get right into that in a second, but I just want to tell everybody out there that we're going to be taking questions right at the end of our Bioshock 2 review chat here. Last week we did it kind of at the end of the show. That was just the way that the format worked better. But this week we're going to have Ryan over here. He's going to be taking the questions. So just tweet your questions to @coop_live. And Ryan's going to be collating them, and then he'll hit JayFresh and I with them afterwards.
Yeah. Join us.
Except I'm just gonna, peruse the internet for the next few minutes.
Right.
You guys talk about
we'll
Bioshock,
actually talk about the game.
Exactly.
Yeah. So send us your questions. But the drill.
The drill.
I love the drill, especially the drill charge that you get. Actually, what the spot we saw there was Popper's Drop, and that is the area where you actually get that move. And that was a turning point for me in the combat. Is when that happened. Definitely.
Yeah, totally agree. And like you can spin up the drill, and you can deflect people's bullets back at them. You can charge at them. It's a great melee attack. There's just so much cool stuff that you can do with the drill. But a lot of the other combat, like, I actually didn't finish Bioshock 1. I only played, like, maybe the first third of the game. I know.
Nobody likes a quitter.
I know.
Nobody does.
You failed, dude.
Well, I fail. Every time I tell you to quit cigarettes, that's the same thing you say to me. So.
Mom's watching. Oh, boy.
But, yeah, it's just... I felt like right when I got into Bioshock 2, I was like, this is the same combat that I remember from Bioshock 1. I mean, did you feel that way?
Yeah, you have sort of all the standard weapons you saw in Bioshock 1. You have your machine gun, you have the shotgun, you have a rivet gun, which serves as the pistol, and it feels... And each of those have secondary and tertiary ammo, which is, was similar in Bioshock 1, and these just sort of feel reskinned. I like the new skins on them, but you're right, it does, and a lot of that goes with the splicers too. You're fighting a lot of the same enemies that you were the first time.
Yeah, you definitely are.
Yeah.
But I think where they actually break it up is the way that they do arenas in this game. You know, you expect kind of the same. I'm going to walk into an area, I'm going to get attacked by a bunch of guys, and that's just sort of standard first-person fare with a Bioshock flavor attached to it. But they also have arena situations where when you're gathering atoms. So you capture a little sister, or you adopt her, as
Yes,
the parlance in the
exactly,
game goes.
yeah.
And so you use her to gather some Adam, and while she's gathering the Adam, you have to protect her. So that means any place where there's an Adam-filled corpse lies becomes an impromptu arena. And of course, it's designed that way in the level, but the amount of defensive options that you have at your disposal while you're doing this random arena combat is great. Like there's trap bolts that you can fire.
I really enjoyed the trap bolts. That was a nice addition.
And if people don't run over them, then you can pick them back up afterward. And I also thought it was really cool how, like, once you set the little sister down and she starts doing her thing, you kind of don't know where the enemies are going to come from.
Yeah, I do like that pre-planning where once you do find the body that you need to drop her off at, you do that evaluation of the area, like where can I get attacked from? And then there's that tension that you could just sort of hear the crowds of splicers starting to close in on you, and you're just doing your best to protect her.
Yep.
And it's always an intense situation.
It always is, every single time. And I like the way that they say things like, leave that little girl alone. What are you doing to her? And I'm like, well, what are you going to do to her?
Yeah, exactly.
And it's just, it's kind of unfortunate to me, though, that a lot of the times you're just getting attacked by sort of the same enemies that we've come to expect.
Yeah, the leadhead splicers, the Houdini splicers, the spider splicers. I was hoping that, you're seeing the City of Rapture 10 years after you were previously there, and I was hoping to maybe see those splicers evolve into more terrifying, more larger, worse creatures. But other than the brutes and the big sisters, you really didn't see a whole lot of difference there.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and the brutes and the big sisters, while I like that they made it so that I wasn't fighting the same splicers I was already familiar with, even in my limited play of Bioshock 1, some of that combat still felt a little bit like I'm just pumping bullets into a sponge, you know? And the brutes especially. Now, of course, they kind of have their own way of doing things, like the brute throws things at you, and it's cool how, like, I saw you do this a lot, where you can, he'll throw something at you, and you can capture it with telekinesis and throw it back at him. Yeah. So there's some cool stuff there. But overall, like, I was just kind of disappointed with the brutes, and it didn't feel like a big enough variety on top of what I was already expecting to play.
I didn't feel like they were a whole lot different than fighting a Big Daddy. The big sisters, on the other hand, completely different. They're like the antithesis of the Big Daddy. They're very lithe, they're very agile, they're jumping all over the place, and they're using plasmid attacks against you. So you do have to switch up your tactics, but like you were saying, again, with the bullet sponge, it is sort of that same way, where it didn't feel like there was any particular attack that was devastating to them. It was just a matter of endurance, of sort of hanging in there and just keep shooting until you could finish them off.
Yeah, absolutely. But fortunately, the way that the controls are structured in Bioshock 2, you kind of always have your guns and your plasmids available to you really easily. And the fact that your drill is now, it's its own weapon, but it also is a defensive as well as an offensive weapon. It gives you a lot of options. But the one thing that the combat is really missing, especially you notice it when the brutes are charging at you or when the big sister is coming at you, they home in on you with those moves.
Oh, yeah.
And I really feel like this game is just missing a dodge move.
Or a counterattack.
Would have
been really nice. Like, they do tell you that you can sort of deflect their charge if you do a melee, like, right at the appropriate time.
Right.
But I never really got satisfying feedback from that. I wish it was something that would have actually pushed them back or put some space between you. And so, I agree. That is disappointing, where it does feel like there's an attack that you really can't do a whole lot about.
Right. And it seems strange to me because why not just give me a tonic that gives me a dodge move, maybe?
Yes.
And because there are so many tonics in this game.
Right? Yeah. That was one of my favorite new additions, is the tonic serving as sort of these passive abilities that once they're equipped to you, your character always carries. And there's so many that you can have. You can see how I think there's like 24 slots that you can eventually open up and add all these great little attributes to your character.
Yep.
What was one of your favorites?
A big favorite of mine was just anything that enhanced my drill moves.
Yes, definitely. I like the little sisters could carry Adam.
And then the new plasmids, there was a summon a security bot. That was one of my favorite new plasmids, definitely.
And then you have the tonic that actually lets you name and heal the security bots. Like there's Dion right there, and I'd have like Alfonso flying around me. I really liked that addition to it, where I could keep them healed and sort of keep them with me as long as I wanted.
And this was great too.
Oh, the scout move,
the scout plasmid, because like it allows you to sort of send a ghost of yourself out there, and you can attack with plasmids. As soon as you get hit, it throws you back into your body. So it's just a nice little tactical move that you can do to sort of initiate combat without having to throw your physical form right in there.
Yeah, great way just to do a little surprise ambush on somebody, sort of give you the upper hand.
Yeah, definitely. And And I really feel that the entire experience is, of course, enhanced by the audio design that they have in Bioshock. And Bioshock 2 is a big bonus to that one.
Yeah, it's the same thing with Bioshock 1. The sound and the score was outstanding. And this completely carries that on that tradition for sure. Definitely with the score, everything from the big sister screaming to just the water dropping on your helmet or the waterfall, it was just great.
Yeah.
Introduction by
That scream was totally terrifying.
Oh, it's memorable even the first time you hear it. I mean, the Big Sister introduction, just in general, I thought they did that very, very well, as making her a very frightening new character. And every time you hear that scream, that warning that a Big Sister is on the way, I was always just very nervous about it.
And they build up the music to go along with it, so it really swells. And I found myself a couple times almost panicking because, like, I have so many choices on how to defend myself. What should I do? What should I do? And but what I actually really liked about the Big Sisters is the way that they were incorporated into the story.
Yeah.
And because they weren't just, oh, here's a new enemy that was always around and you just never saw, and now you get to see them because they woke up from stasis or some crap like that.
Yeah.
It was integral to the story, and it was integral to the new major villain in the story, which is Sophia Lamb.
Yes.
And the whole Sophia Lamb section, the way that she's introduced to you, and the way that the way that the audio tapes refer to her, like you figure out really early on that she's not like Ryan or Fontaine. You know, she really has established herself as this spiritual leader.
Yeah.
You know, all the graffiti that you see on the walls, all really establishes that she has a group of followers that see her as kind of a messiah figure.
Yeah, even in the earlier audio tapes, I remember where you had the sort of the lower class citizens of Rapture that were struggling a lot with surviving in the city. They were talking about Sophia Lamb holding these Sunday morning sort of like not services, but just sort of meetings for those who are confused and lost. They weren't necessarily saying it was like a church service, but there was definitely that religious undertone.
Yep.
And before it felt like you were kind of coming in at the tail end of a civil war. With this, you have this character who has united all of Rapture against you, and that sort of really sets the odds.
Yeah, and I thought it did a really excellent job of creating a different motivation for the people that are driving you forward in the story.
Yeah.
And it was something that I felt that as the main character you connected more with, because you realize that the entire environment area that you go through, all the areas that are associated with Sophia Lamb, they look a lot like Bioshock 1, but they have kind of this Bioshock 2 flavor. You know, the statues are a little different. The architecture felt a little bit different to me. But overall, like, I feel the only real big departure as far as the architecture was concerned was the underwater areas.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I felt like the first time you did it, they pulled it off really well. When the water comes crushing in and you're walking out of, it's like a banquet hall, and it lets you sort of get the idea of walking around in water, letting you jump, and then it does that reveal of Rapture and lets you see it from an angle you never got to see in Bioshock 1. And that was one of the times in the game where that sense of wonder and awe that I felt in Bioshock 1, it was one of the few times in Bioshock 2 where that I felt that they captured that. But from there on, they never took it any further. They never fleshed it out, and that was kind of a disappointment for me.
Well, it was a big disappointment because, you can't use your weapons. You can't. There's nothing that ever attacks you in these areas. But it felt like a really good opportunity to do some puzzle solving and some exploration.
Yes.
And it was so cool to get to see Rapture from the outside. But these areas felt more like just hallways from point A to point B. They're like the elevators in Mass Effect 1,
right?
Except that you get to walk through them instead of passively
Yeah,
seeing
I
your
felt
character
safe,
move.
which was nice because you weren't afraid of anything attacking you, but it would have been nice if there was just something cinematic that was happening, whether it was
Yeah.
a building collapsing
Yeah,
or just,
exactly.
you know, something to do other than just move from point A to point B and just sort of like turn your head back and forth.
I mean, the only thing really to do was to find the atom slugs.
oh, that was
And
kind of
that-
cool,
that was
actually.
kinda
They put them in
cool.
little hiding spots and everything. That was neat, yeah.
And it was a much more satisfying way to get atom slugs than to harvest them from the little sisters.
Oh, that was always a tough decision. I felt like that was
Especially in this
much,
game.
much, like it was so much better done than Bioshock 1 as
Yeah.
far as like you generally having to have that tough choice of choosing to whether to save or harvest them.
And it's primarily, I think, due mainly to the motivation of your main character, because your main character's there looking for his daughter. So when you have a girl down there, she's like, "Daddy, no!" You're just like, "Oh my God, this is so intense."
Never again, I'm sorry. Yeah, exactly.
Now, you were just a deep-sea explorer with iron cojones, pal. The public gave it a nickname, but Ryan was sure you were a spook, so his people locked you up, erased your damn name. Goodbye, Johnny Topside. Hello, Subject Delta.
So as most people know, we're pretty big fans of Squarespace. They have a lot of cool stuff, and our site is hosted there. So we're going to take a second to thank them as our sponsor. Squarespace offers a uniquely flexible tool for just about anyone, no coding experience required, to build high-end complex websites with that same functionality that you will find on some of the highest trafficked pages on the web. Squarespace's newly launched site importer tool makes things so easy to move over. The new tool supports WordPress, Blogger, TypePad, and movable type imports. It migrates posts, comments, tags, authors, and media. If you've got a custom URL, the import preserves the URL structure of your site, making it so that all of your old posts and all of the old links pointing to your post should remain intact. If this sounds awesome and you want to give Squarespace a try, just sign up and use the promo code COOP so that they know we sent you.
Yeah, you should do that.
So it's question time.
Yeah, so
Question
Bioshock
time.
questions. All right,
Yes.
first of all, Guns Akimbo requires that you touch the follow-up box right now.
Hold
Touch
on.
the follow-up
Where is it?
box.
Right
There it
there,
is.
touch it.
Touched.
It's
We're live.
suckers.
There it
See, we're
is.
live.
That can happen right now.
And we'll get back to another question from him later, but I wanted to start with one that's important to me, which is from Keel's a Boss. He says,
Kills the boss. I like that.
yeah, it's a good name. Any impressions on Bioshock 2 multiplayer? Do you feel like it's a necessary addition to the game?
I do have impressions of Bioshock multiplayer. I haven't played as much of it as I would like. I'm about, I think I'm a level 4 character, but I really appreciate sort of the thought that was put into it. It's much more fleshed out than I originally thought. I was like a lot of people when the idea of adding multiplayer to Bioshock just
like, why?
seemed completely unnecessary. It's such a great single player experience.
You guys are crazy. I
But-
think it was set up like there's so many cool combos between the plasmids and the weapons that it seemed
true.
like it should work, and you could set traps and do things in a whole bunch of different ways. The controls maybe aren't my favorite, but it seemed like it should work.
Well, with this, what I like is that they actually put a context and a story behind it, where you are actually taking place in that civil war that happened in 1959 that sort of was the catalyst for the fall of Rapture. And I thought that was really neat. So you're basically, every time you play, you're either on the Andrew Ryan side or the Atlas side, and they let you choose a character, they let you choose the aesthetics for that character, they let you choose a loadout and weapons, and as you play, you level up and you progress and you gain Atom from characters, and that allows you to let your character grow, much like if you played Modern Warfare, or that's sort of the same idea where your weapons will change, and it's a lot of the familiar stuff that you saw in the other games. So I'm interested to see, though, as we level up, you get some really awesome stuff. So I'm worried that, like, if you're level 1 or level 2 character, like, how are you going to be able to go against a level 9 or 10 guy who's got like higher level plasmids or some really awesome tonics for passive abilities? And so I don't know how much legs it's going to have, but I got to say I was actually very pleased with what I saw so far.
That's cool.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to combine some questions here. Guns Akimbo, the guy with the Fallout box, wanted to know, Bioshock wasn't as open as System Shock. Does Bioshock 2 open up anymore, or is it mostly linear? And then there's another guy that says, do you miss the backtracking you could do in Bioshock 1? Do you worry about
missing things knowing that you can't come back to a level? That's from T-Spork. So those two questions are kind of similar.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about
It
that?
was pretty linear.
It was.
overall.
I agree with that.
I mean, like I never really felt particularly lost. I only had to check the map if I was looking for maybe where a little sister was, so that I could, get all the little sisters and go on to the next level.
Yeah.
So in that respect, no, I wasn't sad that I couldn't move back because I never missed anything. There was never an opportunity to miss anything. The levels were really linear. There's not a lot of exploration in that.
I always kind of made sure I got all the sisters and anything that I wanted to get before I moved on.
Yeah.
Don't Look Now wants to know, do they explain how your drill and your gun are on the same hand?
No, they don't.
Video game magic. Yeah. That's what I'm going to say. It's video game magic.
do they explain how you can switch instantly between like a chain gun and a shotgun?
Or how you're carrying like 11 weapons.
Right.
Or
how just lowering your hand suddenly makes it so that you can have a new plasmid.
I mean, other than, some of the more realistic shooters like Modern Warfare or even like Halo, you can only carry 1 or 2 weapons, but for a lot of more arcadey style shooters, you're just kind of used to being able to carry 11 or 12 weapons at a time. So
Yeah.
that whole switching in, I just never even think
It's a
about
funny
it, to be
question,
honest
though.
with you. I just assumed that is a very good question, yeah.
Chris Screws wants to know, do you feel like you could play the entire game with just the plasmids and the drill?
Yeah.
There's a tonic for that too.
There is a tonic for
Yep,
that.
there is. There's one that gives you only the research camera, the drill, and I think just the auto hack tool.
Yeah.
But it significantly decreases the amount of Eve that is used on a plasmid, and I was really close to trying that
I
out.
tried it. I used it for probably a whole level. I had all of the drill upgrades. I had a tonic which gave me frozen drill, which means that occasionally when I hit people, it would freeze them.
Very cool.
And I had that tonic, and basically I was just a melee machine.
Was it fun?
It was really fun.
Nice. I'm gonna try
In
that.
fact,
That's a
I
cool
think that's
idea.
the best way that this combat shines is when you're using the drill.
And does the best job of making you actually feel like a big daddy as well.
Yes.
I agree.
Zombie Ramon wants to know, is playing and finishing Bioshock 1 necessary to enjoy Bioshock 2? I would guess not.
Well, I
since-
didn't finish Bioshock 1, so I would say no. In fact, I wonder if you played Bioshock 1, if you're going to get less enjoyment out of Bioshock 2.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that seems to be the biggest complaint from Bioshock 1 players, is that it does feel a lot of the same for them. And if I had to choose between the two, it's tough because I do feel like there were a lot of really good improvements that they made. It was nothing major, but adding the drill, which has added a great melee element to it that Bioshock 1 did not have. The hacking is better in Bioshock 2. I liked the minigame a lot in Bioshock 1, but I didn't like doing it 6,500 times or however much it was. It's just towards the end, you just got sick of it. And I thought the hacking is just a lot better for the type of gameplay.
And there's
that
even
it's
an auto
fostering.
hack tool if you just want to get through something and you
love
don't
that.
want to bother with it.
Yeah.
PS3 RG wants to know, are there any real differences between the PC and console versions of the game, or?
I really
looks
don't think
better?
so. I mean, there kind of was right in the beginning. I mean, there's a resolution thing.
Yeah, I played on PC and it
Yeah.
looked really good. The texture seemed really good, that sort
Yeah.
of stuff. But
I don't really think there's any difference other than just, PC controls versus console controls. I do feel that the PC controls are kind of lacking as far as the mouse control goes.
I
that's about
agree.
it.
I mean, it just feels a little sluggish, and it's hard
Yeah.
to explain exactly why, but there's something that's like not quite right about it.
Yep.
Tiffy Poo wants to know, so, good name.
That's an awesome name.
So Bioshock 2 gives cred to female villains. Of all time, who is your favorite girl villain and why?
Oh, shit.
That's an awesome
I wasn't
question.
prepared for this
yeah, I'm
question.
gonna give you one that you guys can think about. For
Yeah,
a
let's
second.
we'll come back. Let's put a pin in that.
All
We'll come back to it.
we'll come back to that. All right,
villain,
like a few more
female
questions
villain.
here. Jackson Lake wants to know, I know the consensus is that the levels in Bioshock 2 were not as good, but do you feel the characters were actualized better?
I do agree the characters were actualized better. They look better as well. And they did feel like, as far as your secondary characters that you're talking to, there was a little bit more personality and I felt a little bit more fleshed out. Environments, I liked the environments in Bioshock 2 a lot. I thought Popper's Drop was really cool. The way they showed the slums and explained how those slums were built. Seeing the old Atlantic Express rail line, like the original train for Rapture, and sort of the fall of that, and how everybody switched to the personalized bathyspheres. 'Cause it's so much more fun. I liked that a lot, and so Bioshock's kind of preaching to the choir for me because I just love that art direction and I love that world. So showing me other ones, I just was excited to see new areas. So I would say yes and yes.
Like I said, I didn't finish Bioshock 1, but I felt like the part that I did play didn't have a whole lot of rhyme or reason to it. They were just levels.
Yeah.
And in Bioshock 2, I do feel like these are places. Like I get why things are made the way that they're made.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, I agree with that.
All right, so Slacker Chan and many others, he's just the most recent one, says the ending of the game really opens up for another sequel. Was this trip through Rapture worthwhile, and do you think that Bioshock 3 would be a potentially interesting game, or should they stop?
I'd say it's worthwhile.
Yeah, I would say it was worthwhile.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed my experience in Bioshock 2. I'm not saying that it's a bad game, even though it did feel kind of samey. It feels kind of more like the sequels that we would have expected several years ago. You know, when a PC FPS would come out and then the next one would come out and everybody would be happy with the iterations on it instead of it being totally revolutionary. And I feel like today a lot of people really demand a sequel to be something completely fucking new. Otherwise, you know, it's just not as good.
Yep.
And it's, you know, it's because we do have examples of some sequels coming out that just completely blow the previous
Mass
game
Effect
out of the
2,
water.
Assassin's Creed 2.
All right, so the last question, Joe Lynch wants to know, how effective is the game at making you feel like a big daddy, or is the drill the only thing that's really different?
I wouldn't say it's really that effective at making you feel like a big daddy.
Yeah, I
Other
mean,
than the helmet dripping,
the sound
and
effect,
the
yeah.
sound effects, and that drill are probably the two areas where it does best.
Yeah, and you know, and I do feel maybe it's just a side effect of the way that you move in Bioshock, but you just kind of feel like you're plodding around slowly.
But I felt like that was the case in the first game too. So
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, I would have to say that the only female villain that keeps popping up in my head is Yorda's mother from Eco.
Oh yeah.
Like I thought she was really cool,
That's
but
a
she's
great
not.
example.
But she's not very well actualized in
Yeah.
the game, so I could probably think of something better if I had more.
We need
time.
more
Yeah.
female villains. Is
Yeah,
what I
true.
think that's sort of made us realize we need some more good female villains for sure.
Yep.
But so, I thought Sophia Lamb was a great one.
Yeah,
in this
she
game.
was a
I thought
great
she
one.
really was a great villain for sure. She just so hell bent on destroying you. She just thought you were the devil. It was just great.
What's wrong, Billy? No money for new games? Well, try GameFly. GameFly is the largest online video game rental service and offers you a choice from over 6,000 new and classic titles across all consoles and handhelds. With plans starting at $15.95 a month, GameFly members can rent 1 to 4 games at a time and keep them for as long as they like. There are no late fees, no due dates, and shipping is always free. Once you're done playing a game, send it back and GameFly will send you the next available game on your list. If you really like the game you're playing, simply click Keep It on the GameFly website and the game is yours, at a discounted price. GameFly will even mail you the case and manuals free of charge. Co-op fans will get a 2-week free trial when they go to gamefly.com/co-op. Some restrictions apply, see site for details.
You know, honestly, I just can't get enough of this game right now. Ever since you showed me Geospark, I haven't been able to play anything else, honestly.
Geospark's pretty addictive. Geospark's a really good collaboration from the team that brought you Harbor Master and the team that did Geodefense. And as you can see, the art is very similar to Geodefense.
Yeah, it looks a lot like Geodefense.
The basic idea is to eliminate the sparks.
These are the different geometrical figures, right?
Right, and they're all different shapes and different colors.
So it's funny because I didn't realize that your finger, the longer you hold it down, dragging any shape, it creates a gravity well, right?
It's almost like this black hole that's like around your finger that kind of sucks the sparks towards you. It becomes more risky. You know, once you get like in that frantic mode where you're just tapping away, you're like, oh shit, this spark's really close to this spark, and you know, you hit those two different sparks together and it's game over.
I tend to not have really much of a strategy. I just kind of tap one at a time or tap a couple at a time, but I noticed that there's like circles that say like ×2 or can actually multiply your combos by. Not only that, there's bombs, as I realized, that just kind of like Geometry Wars, you tap once and it shoots everything on the screen.
With the recent update, they added 1-ups. It basically keeps it going a little bit longer than you normally would.
I bought this a long time ago, so I don't even remember how much it is, but it's not until recently that I realized how addictive it is. How much is it?
It's only 99 cents. I mean, it's a great little simple game that also has a lot of depth.
It's a really good game.
It's only made by 3 people.
It's crazy.
So another longtime sponsor of ours is GoDaddy, and we're going to take a moment to thank them. With GoDaddy, you can get reliable, secure web hosting without the long-term contract. GoDaddy's hosting plans are bigger and better than ever, with 99% uptime, free 24/7 support, and no annual commitment. And of course, just like all the other GoDaddy offers out there, we have a promo code that you can use. Just use CO13 and you'll get 20% off 1, 2, or 3-year hosting plans. GoDaddy.com.
That's right.
That is right.
GoDaddy's.
All right, now it's my turn to be community.
Yeah, and Jason appears, of course.
Jason!
What's up, guys?
All right, so earlier this week, Microsoft was in town and they had an event called X10, in which they were showing off many of their biggest games for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
We were there, and unfortunately, we weren't allowed to take footage for many of the biggest games. I mean, Halo Reach, Alan Wake, there's an embargo. We're not allowed to talk about it until tomorrow. Crackdown 2 was there, no video footage allowed. So we're actually going to spend this segment talking about some of the other games that we saw. Some might consider them smaller games. I don't think so. I think that it was good stuff. But at this point, we want to remind you to use co-op_live, the Twitter account, and ask questions. Matt will be checking those over, and we'll take them as we go along. I don't know how this is going to work, but we'll see if we can do this.
Figure something
It's an
out.
experiment.
It's an experiment.
In real time.
Live experiments. All right, so the first game that we saw that we got a kick out of was Dead Rising 2 by Capcom. And the first Dead Rising, it was a pretty cool game, but it had some structural issues, a lot of time management. It was really hard.
Yeah.
You know, I felt like you could actually screw yourself. Did you finish the first game?
No, I didn't actually. My save got totally screwed up. I was on one side of the map and I had to get to a boss. It was like a woman on a motorcycle.
Right.
And just because of where I saved, I did not have enough time to get from one side to where the boss was, so it totally screwed my game over.
Yep, I didn't finish it either, but I know some people got a real kick out of it. Our old boss at 1UP, Mark McDonald, loved the first game, and he played through it many times and found all the secrets, and just got a kick out of it. But from what we can see in Dead Rising 2, the demo that they had at this event was basically one giant open space. Instead of a mall, you're in a casino area in Las Vegas now, and so it was one really large room, basically with side rooms, and just zombies everywhere. And the only goal in the demo was to get a certain number of points. So it was basically to kill as many zombies as you could.
It'd be like 20,000 PP points and just like a ton of zombies. And here you can see we're running around with this like barrel just rolling down all these zombies. There were so many zombies. So many more than the first game. It was just crazy.
But it's not exactly the number of zombies that makes it really insane. What I thought was weird was the first game, because of this, like we said, the time management, and you just felt weak. So when you ran into a space where there was just a crap load of zombies like this, you got scared and you were like, damn, I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it through here. But that never, I don't know if it was just the demo or what, but that never occurred in the Dead Rising 2 version that we played. Because when I saw that many zombies, I felt strong because all the weapons felt really strong, and I just felt like I could take them all on, and it was no big deal. So I don't know if that was the demo or what. But the controls for even the melee weapons, like smashing guys like this, I mean, it just feels really solid. Everything feels a little bit sharper, a little bit newer. Even weapons like this are very easy. You just hold down the left trigger and you go into your aiming reticle comes up, just as you'd expect in a third-person shooter. And that's a little bit different than it was in Dead Rising 1.
Well, even the combat, just like punching zombies and the shooting they felt so much more solid.
Oh, definitely.
The pistol, and I think we even had a shotgun at one point.
Right.
Just it felt so much more polished than the first game.
Yeah, I mean, I tried to avoid using guns. One, they had very little ammo in Dead Rising 1, but it didn't feel that good to control. Well, in this game, you can see you're running, you're moving and shooting at the same time, perfect aiming. So when you do get a hold of a weapon, you really feel like you're powerful for a second, or more powerful than you would be anyway. But I have to say, the craziness comes when you start doing the combo weapons. And you were saying that you thought it reminded you a little bit of the mechanic from the first game where you made smoothies.
Yeah, there was a mechanic that where you have like a blender and you take like creamer and orange juice and you basically get like a power up, like the quick step power up, which was that same two things that you put together, which would make you like able to run so much faster from one side of the mall to the next part of the mall. Which I probably should have used more of in the first game, but
there was a lot of inventory management and stuff in the game,
right? Which is very similar to the weapons, where you could take things like a paddle and two chainsaws and tape them together and just totally
go nuts with
this new weapon. Like you see here with the boxing gloves, we go over to the workbench and we're taking the boxing gloves and taping.
They're Bowie knives, I think.
The Bowie knives, right? And so you have like this Freddy Krueger. Valdo kind of weapon that you can just totally have fun with.
Yeah, and it was really cool. Like this workbench is here in the demo area. They had just a bunch of different items that you could take there and kind of experiment with to see what would form a combo. But there was also a shop that we don't have footage of, but you could actually buy the combo weapons there. And it doesn't stop with just these Freddy Krueger hands here. We also got a super soaker combined with like a gas can that made a flamethrower. And then later, the craziest one I think was the one that you mentioned earlier, which is the paddle with the two chainsaws that's strapped to it, which was just pure mayhem when it was going off.
It felt like you were just like swimming through a sea of zombies, paddling through it with this ridiculous weapon.
My favorite thing is how dirty, bloody his outfit gets here. He just like at the end of this, he's just a mess of red.
You start off with this yellow motorcycle jacket, and next thing you know, it's totally red.
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous.
But this ties into one of the questions. Surkov _ I don't know why there's an underscore at the end of his name. He just says it looks easy. Is it?
So far, so yes, the demo that we played was very, very, very easy. And you never can tell how a game is going to be balanced, from a demo. I mean, they literally could have just made it super easy so that everyone survived during their playthrough because they think their preview impressions are going to be better or something like that. But I mean, I have to emphasize that that's the one thing that we just don't know about. This demo was really straightforward. It was basically like a zombie pit and a bunch of weapons that you could experiment with. So we have no idea what changes to the structure of the game are coming. I'm guessing there's none of the photo mechanic that you did as the photojournalist when you were Frank before. There's just so many unknown elements that the only thing that this demo proved to me is that the controls are much better, the weapons are easier to use, and there's going to be these crazy combo weapons that are super ridiculous.
And that's good. That actually responded to several questions here. People were just asking about the controls because they thought they weren't as good in Dead Rising 1.
Yeah, I mean, it still feels close enough to Dead Rising 1 that if you're a fan, you're probably not going to be turned off by it because, if anything, they feel reminiscent of the old controls, but with many of the things that you felt were missing, they're back and they work now just right.
And one final question about Dead Rising is Roofy91. He says, I have heard that DR2 follows the same hour structure as 1. What do you guys think? That turns me off.
I honestly, I don't know if there were just better checkpoints or something like that. The game was really punishing.
Do we really know that it actually follows the same structure?
I don't know, but they might have said. Sure. I haven't been reading the preview coverage because I'm lately. I just kind of like to play the game when it's out. But we were at this preview event. We played the demo, so I can tell you what we know from playing it. But I honestly don't know what the structure is going to be like, and I'm looking forward to hearing more about it and seeing what happens when the game comes out.
I would hope it's not the same as the first one. That turned me off too.
Well, there you go. So the next game that we played was one of Matt's favorites. It's Splinter Cell Conviction, which was really, really good.
Splinter Cell.
That's no surprise.
Yeah. All right. I'm here.
Hold that for a second.
Okay.
Splinter Cell, for me, like Double Agent was one of my favorite stealth action games of all time.
And you love stealth action games.
And I love stealth action games. And Splinter Cell Conviction, at least based off of what I played at X10, is shaping up to be just about that good. Probably better. I mean, just based off like the short gameplay that I had, the controls were so precise and they added so well to the cinematic nature of the game that at times I felt like I was playing an action movie, and instead of it being like I move from this and then a cutscene moves or there's just an animation that happens, I felt like I was doing it.
Right. I was really into the controls. In fact, my favorite new element of the controls is the way that the cover system works, which I believe is the second clip that we have queued up there. This is the first one. But
well, this right here just kind of shows like, how the camera was always positioned perfectly no matter where I was. So that, I did that drop down there and killed that guy. And then, here's the cover system. So the cover system, it isn't like Gears of War or some other games that have cover system. It's not like you only have a SWAT turn or you're snapping to or you're snapping to the next piece of cover and dodging around it or anything like that. You have kind of a full 360 degrees of where you can aim to pulse, where you can aim to hit your cover.
this isn't quite the clip. This is the end of the first clip, but basically the way that it works, and I'm sure we'll get that footage up here in a sec, is that there's here we go. You can take cover on any little thing, but you'll see the indicator on the HUD there. See how it's just like it points to it, and you can go to it. But see now how it's on the side of that box there? That he could literally do a move to cover onto that box from his current position now. And that's what makes it feel different than other cover systems, is you really do have, basically whatever you're pointing at, you can move to that cover there, assuming you can take cover on that spot. This is also a good example of how everything in the game turns black and white when you're in shadow, so it's like your shadow indicator, except the things that you're targeting. So you can see the guys in the center are nice and colored. That is a totally different game. And
We're live!
Yeah, exactly, live show. I don't know. I felt like that was definitely one of my favorite things about the game. And so many of the animations in the old Splinter Cells felt really like they were snapping to a grid. Like, yes, there's the SWAT turn. Yes, you can take kneel down, but everything here feels much more fluid. And Sam Fisher begins to feel much more like a real character in this game. One of my favorite things about the game from the demo we played was that I really hated in the old Splinter Cells how everything was so menu driven. You'd like walk up to a door or something like that, and a menu would pop up on the top of the screen that says like, use your snake cam, open the door quietly, open the door fast, kick down the door. And I just felt like I was playing, it made it feel like an RPG. I felt like I was removed from Sam Fisher at that point. And they've really started taking that away in recent Splinter Cells, but in this version, it's more gone than it ever has been before. If you look down at the bottom of a door, then you'll use in this game it was a mirror, but you'll use your snake cam on it. If you look at the doorknob, that goes off. So basically all of the HUD elements are moved into the environment. So you begin to feel like Sam Fisher because you're looking at the world maybe the way that he would look at it.
Yep.
And
I feel a lot like I am inside his head in this game. Whereas before, I kind of felt like, even in Double Agent, it seemed like you're a little bit divorced from Sam, and I wasn't too sure that I would like having the HUD elements incorporated in the environment like that. But I realized that they really added, for me, to the cinematic nature of the game, because it's almost like narration. It's almost like Sam is like telling me what can happen or what he can do.
Yeah.
Like that little jump that's right there. That's so much better having it right there in the environment than having it show up in the lower corner of the screen.
Right, exactly. And it goes further than that. Obviously, those elements are there, like the things that Sam can do, his actions show up on screen. But they take it one step further later in the game, and you'll see they'll start putting these big words that kind of tell you where to head or what your next objective is. You'll walk into this is a giant mansion. At some point you walk up and it reminds you on the wall, it says, kill this guy who's your target right there. See, find Sarah's killer. Find Sarah's killer. And so you say cinematic, and I have to somewhat disagree, because I feel like if I was in the middle of a film and some words started coming up on the side of buildings, it would be a bit weird to me. But
you know what, you're right.
It feels like the intro credits of a movie or a music video or something like that. But more importantly, I think, is what we were saying before, that it really puts you in Sam Fisher's head. And so it just feels like a modern way to get the HUD out of the way and still still know what you're doing.
Yeah, maybe we don't have maybe we don't have the correct term to describe this sort of emotion in gaming yet. I mean, when we say cinematic in film, we know what we're talking about.
Right.
The immersive quality in this game is really up there, and that the text in the environment only enhances that for me as opposed to distracting from it.
Right. So, I mean, basically the area we played the intro of the game, and then that area, which is, as far as I know, what they showed at E3. So we haven't seen all that much of the game yet, but after finally getting my hands on it, I have to say, like, I'm really, really looking forward to it, and I think it's shaping up rather well.
Yeah,
Does anyone have any questions about the Splinter Cell? Anything?
I'm glad. I'm just glad that the game is coming out really soon because like I am super excited to play
There's
it
some
now.
pretty
But
silly stuff going on. here.
I'll just say, like, people are asking about the graphics. The graphics look really good. It's hard to tell from our footage because we just shot off a screen with our
Right.
cameras.
We didn't have direct feed at the
But
event.
it does look good. It sounds good. We played with. It was one of the few games we got to play with headphones, and I'm really looking forward to sitting down with it and finally.
And I was
taking it
really,
apart.
I was really into the story too, like Sam Fisher's character and his motivation. It felt right. And I may be wrong about this, but it seemed to me like when I was using that guy as a human shield, my only option was to break his neck. Whereas in the past Splinter Cells, you had like kill them or knock them out.
Right.
There was another option to throw him, but I'm not. Maybe that's the knockout in this game, but. It just felt to me like maybe that's who Sam Fisher is now. He's a guy that just kills motherfuckers that are in his way.
Right. All right. So the last game we're going to talk about from the X10 event might seem, it's not really a game, first of all, and it might seem a little bit strange. And it's because it's something that we weren't even planning to look at at first. I think Jason and I had played everything that we could possibly play, and Jason asked me,
Do you want to check out Game Room?
and I said, okay, I guess so. See, I guess I always figured, I hadn't been reading much on it, so I just figured like Game Room is going to be another spot where I can play many of the games that are already on Xbox Live Arcade. And I don't know, just, there were 3 avatars running around in space. Like when you look at the screenshots, it doesn't really tell you the whole story. And of course there are like these classic old games in there. Like for example, one of them that we saw was Pitfall. And I've played Pitfall since I was a little kid. It's a really fun game.
Super hard.
And you can see here, like it looks like Pitfall. I love these interfaces that come up that show you like what the hardware of the Atari actually looks like.
2600.
You can switch to black and white mode. You can change the difficulty using these like analog switches and stuff, and that's really cool. And if you remember, if you played this game as a kid, Pitfall is a really ridiculously hard game. I can't even jump over a pit.
Impossible.
But as one of the things that's great about Game Room is that,
Wait, did you just say you couldn't jump over a pit in Pitfall?
Yeah, no, I suck. That's what I'm saying. I made that jump, so I felt good about it. But check this out. This is where I always died in the first game.
Everybody always
I was
dies
5 years old, but wait, and we're rewound and back. They've incorporated a rewind feature into the game, so. If you're like me and you sucked at Pitfall and you could never make it past this dumb alligator heads puzzle, now you can finally make it using the rewind feature. Of course, it's going to take me a few more times. Hey man,
rewinds.
There was a crowd gathered around me, so it was really hard to play here. I'm actually better at Pitfall than this, but it shows you how the rewind feature works, and that was really cool. But I wasn't sold on Game Room yet. I was like, another way to play Pitfall.
Well,
that's really cool.
It seemed like there were a lot of games, but we didn't really recognize very many of them.
We started scrolling through this giant list of games, and they were just like, as we would flip through, I was like, I haven't heard of that. I haven't heard of that. What is this? What is this? And it went on for a really long time. But we finally came to a game that I recognized, which was called Sea Battle. Now, my friend, when I was like 5 years old, had an Intellivision, and this was one of the games that we played all this time. It has those funny controllers that have numpads on them, and you slide these plastic cards into the controller, and that tells you what you do in any particular game. Those are represented on screen in the Xbox version.
I had never played this game, and Ryan was like, "You've never played this? I used to play this all the time." And I just was like, all right, well, what do we do, And so we started, here you pick out your ships, and then you come together and battle it out.
That's like the map screen, and you kind of like slowly make your way towards each other. You can build a whole bunch of ships and kind of move them out over the course of the whole map. And then when you finally get closer together, then the actual battle starts. And it's very simple. It's very easy. That some ships are better against other ships, that sort of thing. But once we finally got into the actual combat of the game, something happened, something clicked, and Jason and I had that same sort of like competitive spirit, that fire that we feel when we're playing Street Fighter. And we realized pretty shortly that a crowd had gathered around us while we were playing this game. It was probably because not many people were playing Game Room at this event, but we had finally picked it up and we were having a great time. I mean, Cesar was at the event too, and he told me, I saw you guys over at the Game Room station having a good time. What was the deal with that? That doesn't even make any sense. But we had a great time playing Sea Battle. And then we noticed another cool feature.
One of the really cool features was that you can look and see what similar games are similar to the one that you're playing.
Right, exactly.
And so it was Armor Battle.
Right.
Was
so
the other one.
Another Intellivision game, probably made by the same people, although honestly I don't know. came up and we started playing a game called Armor Battle that was really similar to, I guess it's kind of like Combat on the Atari, but it's a little bit more in depth. You'll see like the graphics look better.
There's perspective as the tanks turn.
Exactly. You have 2 tanks. 2 of our tanks on each of the teams are hidden on in the brush there, and when you're in the brush or the forest or whatever, your tanks move slower. So there is a lot more strategy, and it was the same type of thing that happened when we were playing Sea Battle. All of a sudden, we got super competitive. You know, we played Sea Battle for probably 15, 20 minutes, and then we played Armor Battle for probably another 15 or 20 minutes. And just when we thought we were done, then someone was like, "You got to play some Outlaw, man. You got to play some Outlaw." And so then we did that, and we played that for like
a really great game.
10 minutes.
It had like a breakaway cover. That was pretty amazing, and you can like move like where you aim with your characters.
And there's, you know, depending upon all the levels and the difficulties, you know, you set up in these menus here, you can, you know, ricochet your shots off of walls.
Yeah, you got really good at that.
And
So Outlaw has destructible environments?
yes,
Yes.
Outlaw has totally
That's what
destructible environments. And I don't know, it's a really weird thing. I'm sure people are watching this show right now.
What are you
and
talking about?
They're saying, what are you talking about?
Out of all the games you could be playing right now, why
are you playing Outlaw? Why are you playing these old
Well,
games?
actually, like one of the questions here is from Red Evan. He says, which platforms will be available in Game Room? Because, you know, we just saw an Atari and we saw on television. Do we know what kind of platforms are going to be?
Man, there was more in there. There's old school arcade games as well, definitely.
Yeah.
And, you know,
else
I'm sure there's more. In fact, you have a computer, so you can look. But the key thing that I took away from it was Chris Kohler from Wired, Game Life, was standing next to us, and he had talked to the developers about this a lot. And one of the things he told me was that they said that no game is too obscure. When the system launches, or when the service launches, there's going to be 30 games in from the start, and their plan is to release 7 games a week. So you're going to end up with like thousands of games.
Yeah, they were saying over 1,000 games.
And that's cool. Like it's really cool. And the pricing structure, honestly,
that's
pretty
great.
interesting. Okay, so any of the games that are in the storefront, you can play a demo for free.
We played for a while.
Yeah, it seemed like it was on a timer, and it went for a really, really, really
10,
long time,
15
10, 15 minutes.
yeah.
So it wasn't like you just play like 1 credit's worth on an arcade game and that's it. Like we got a full game experience out of it.
But what's cool, you can play that way too. Like 1 credit, 50 cents, single play.
Exactly. So you re-up your time. You know, if you're like, I got to go one more, 50 cents, and that's a pretty low fee, you know, realistically speaking. And then if you want to purchase the games outright, it's $3 to buy a game if you just want it on your Xbox or on your PC, because it's also coming to PC. And if you want it available for both platforms, then you can pay $5.
$5,
And
yeah.
I just thought that was a pretty darn good deal.
Do we have time for one more question?
I don't know, Cesar.
All right. You answered the questions about price. I
Right.
saw that come up a couple times. But Twisted Inc., his question is, how can Microsoft expect Game Room to compete with MAME, Flash game sites? What's its unique feature?
Yeah, well, that's just the interesting thing about it. Like, it seems like it should have no appeal. I've been trying to figure out what the appeal for this sort of service is. I guess if you're talking about pirating the games for free from the internet, there's not that much difference. I mean, obviously I said the rewind feature, but you have save states and stuff on emulators. But basically what I liked about it was that it had this like competitive gaming element that I usually don't feel when I'm playing multiplayer games of this type. Like it was perfect for Jason and I to sit down and play, and we weren't expecting to have a good time with it, and we did.
Yeah.
So what I would recommend is that if you are at home with your boys and you have something to do, hop in there and at least click around and give some things a try.
Try it out, I mean.
Yeah. It was really fun. So I guess that's it this week.
I could use a drink.
I could definitely use a drink.
2.
I'll be your lightning gun, alternate fire. I'll be your player to 1080p. I'll be that memory card that you back up on. What if life was more like a video game? We would play it all